Hey everyone, I'm back for another video. Sorry for the inactivity lately. I just wanted to get this out there as it is one of the most intriguing weeks of the year if you're a college basketball fan. It's conference tournament week. Selection Sunday is in 6 days, and there is a lot that still needs to be figured out. And what I'm going to do today for 10 minutes, just go through the conference tournaments of the Power 5. So that's the ACC, SEC, Big 12, Pac 12, and Big 10, and talk about what I think about the tournaments, get my predictions, not going by bracket, but just noting a few things. And there is still a lot to be figured out. A lot of teams have a lot to play for. A lot of teams don't have a lot to play for. But there's is a really big week for a lot of teams. Even the teams at the bottom, like Minnesota in the Big Ten, those teams got to believe that they have a chance, even though most people don't think they do. And I'm not saying they do, but it's a big week for college basketball. And we're only 6 days away from Selection Sunday. So with that being said, yesterday was a very big day in college basketball, of course, and Saturday, obviously, a lot of teams wrapping up their seasons, and then the brackets were made. So we're going to start with the ACC tournament, which is taking place in Greensboro starting Tuesday. So, favorite going into this tournament is the Miami Hurricanes. Miami is the number one seed. They clinched a share of the ACC title with Virginia, and they are very, very front heavy. And they have one of the best coaches in the conference, in John Beal. It's that type of day. And Jim Larinaga, and I have Isaiah Wong, Nigel Pack, Jalen Miller. They are a very good team. Then, if it's not the favorite, it'll be the Duke Blue Devils. Duke has been on a heater lately. As much as I hate to say that as a UNC fan, Duke's won 6 straight games. They've really figured out their ball handling, taking Jeremy Roach off and putting Tyrese Proctor on. Tyrese Proctor has been a really good ball handler for them, and it allows Jeremy Roach to focus more on scoring. And then they have probably the best freshman in the ACC in Kyle Filipowski, who dropped over 20 against UNC in a very hostile environment. And then Derek Lively has really come through in the second half of the season, though it's not showing on the scoreboard. He is a presence at the rim, and it makes Duke a very hard team to drive on. Then, the early exit in the ACC conference has to be UNC. I think a lot of people, when you look at UNC and you look at this bracket, you're going to see that UNC plays the winner of Louisville Boston College on Wednesday. They should win that game, and then they'll play UVA next. UVA is winning the winner of that segment. And UNC just beat UVA, and I think a lot of people are going to look at UNC and say they're a better team on paper. Obviously, they haven't lived up to expectations this year, and a lot of people might pick UNC to make a run, but I don't think that's going to happen. I just think the Tar Heels have way too much on their minds. They've just been dealing with the pressure all season. They've just not been a good basketball team this year, whether it's their incapacity to play defense. They're the worst three-point shooting team in the Big Ten, and the worst mid-range shooting team in the Big Ten, and I think that when they get to UVA, I think UVA is going to beat them. UNC is also a really bad team away from the Dean Dome. I think, though a lot of people might pick UNC to win this game and make a run in the tournament, I don't see it happening. I want it to happen, but I don't see it happening. Next, the most intriguing matchup. So, if Duke and Miami take care of business, it's going to be the Duke-Miami semifinal. Duke's the 4 seed in the ACC, Miami's the 1 seed, and I think these are the two best teams in the ACC, and I think this would be the final if you had to pick the two best teams in the ACC. There's so much in this game that's intriguing. When Miami went to Cameron Indoor, they only lost to Duke by 2, and when Duke came to Miami to play Miami, Miami blew the doors off them, and I think Duke has something to say about that. Duke is the hottest team in the ACC right now, and just the matchup, Nigel Pack against Tyrese Proctor and Jeremy Roach, Isaiah Wong scoring, I think Duke has the advantage inside because I think Jalen Miller is still that type of player that I think I'd still go with Filipowski and Lively, but there really is a lot to play for. If that is a matchup, that is going to be the most intriguing one. And then, finals prediction, I think Miami does win that game, and I think it's going to be Miami versus Virginia. I think, though, when you look at one side of the ACC bracket, it's Miami, Duke, and Pittsburgh. And then you look at the other, it's UNC, UVA, and NC State. And I think that you look at Miami, I think Miami gets it done. And I think UVA has a pretty easy road to the final, but they lose to Miami. I think Miami's the best team in the ACC, and I think they show that there. And I also forgot to mention a dark horse. The dark horse is NC State. They have the best scorer in the ACC in Terquavion Smith, and I don't think any team wants to play them. So that's the structure. Okay, now moving on to the SEC tournament, which I think is the most intriguing tournament of them all. I think there's a lot that could happen in the SEC. I could see some upsets. The SEC, though Alabama has been the favorite, which I'll get into in a second, they do have the capacity to lose, and I think there's a lot going around their program. So let's get into it. Favorite, Alabama. Obviously, they're 16-2 in the conference, have the best player in the conference in Brandon Miller. They have Clowney. Nate Oates is a good coach, even though they have been dealing with a lot of stuff in their program lately with accusations on Miller and the charges. But Bama still is the team to beat in this conference. That's why they're one. That's why they're number 2 in the country. If it's not Bama, it will be Texas A&M. Texas A&M has really been on a heater lately. They just beat Alabama at home, even though Alabama came back from down 13. And with Wade Taylor and Terrence Radford, that's one of the best guard combos in the conference, if not the country. Both average over 12 per game. They are a good team. Early exit, Mizzou. I think Mizzou has a really tough matchup against Tennessee in the first round, and I think Tennessee is a better team. And I think that even though Mizzou's ranked 25th in the country in the new AP poll, I do not think they'll make much noise in this tournament. Dark horse, Arkansas. I think even though Arkansas has not been able to put it together this year, they still are a talented team with Nick Smith, who's coming back from injury, obviously, and is balling out. Anthony Black, Jordan Walsh, the Mitchell twins. I think that Arkansas is a scary team. I don't think any team wants to play them. They're a 10 seed. Now, the downside to that is they just haven't been able to put it together this year. They're on the bubble, and I think the pressure might get to them. They're a team with a lot of freshmen, and I think that might show. But they are a dark horse. I don't think anybody wants to play them. Most intriguing matchup, Kentucky A&M in semifinals. Kentucky has been really hot as of late after falling off at the start of the season. Probably the best player in the conference is not Brandon Miller, it's Oscar Tshiebwe. And Antonio Reeves is also a really good guard, averages over 10 a game. And against that Texas A&M guard combo, that's a really interesting thing to watch. And so if that's a semifinal, I think that will be the most intriguing matchup. It was either that or Tennessee-Alabama if that's a semifinal matchup. Finals prediction. Speaking of that Tennessee-Alabama game, I think Tennessee beats Alabama in the SEC tournament in the semifinals. I think it's going to be Tennessee-Kentucky. I think Kentucky is one of the hottest teams. Tennessee has already beaten Alabama this year, and I think they beat them again. Zakai Zibler and Antonio Vescovi are one of the best guard combos, and Josiah Jordan-James is also a really good third option, and I think Tennessee gets it done. And that they are my prediction to win the SEC tournament. They are the number 5 seed, but they have the wins. They know how to be in these tough games. They have a win over Bama. They have a win over Texas. They almost beat Arizona at McHale, which Arizona went undefeated at Cale this year besides a full-court buzzer beater by Arizona State, which we'll get into. I think as Tennessee is a scary team, I think they win the SEC tournament. I do not think they go that far in March Madness because Rick Barnes has not really shown the capacity to do that yet. But I think Tennessee wins the SEC tournament for the second straight year. Moving on, the tournament with probably the most uncertainty, the Big Ten. And obviously, I've watched a lot of Big Ten basketball this year as a Northwestern fan and journalist who's had to cover the team, and it's obviously a great story. That tournament starts Wednesday night in Chicago with the first 4 matchups. The favorite going into this tournament is the Purdue Boilermakers, who are ranked number 4 or 5 in the AP poll. Obviously, they have the Wooden Award favorite in Zach Edey, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, and Brandon Newman. They have good guards, and obviously Purdue's the favorite. They're the 1 seed. They won the Big Ten title outright for the regular season. I don't think anybody wants to play them. They're the favorite. If it's not Purdue, it'll be Indiana. Indiana has been on a heater lately, getting an overtime win against Michigan yesterday after being down 10 at one point. Trace Jackson-Davis is the second best player in the conference. I don't think there's a debate about that. They have a pretty favorable bracket on their side. They're waiting the winner of Maryland, Nebraska, and Minnesota, whoever comes out of there. And I think Indiana has the win against Purdue. They beat Purdue twice this season, so I think that they have a real chance to win this tournament, and I think they have to be the second consideration. Early exit, Maryland. The Maryland Terrapins are a very different team away from Xfinity Center, and I think that'll show. I think they lose to Nebraska in their first game after Nebraska beats Minnesota. Nebraska's on a heater lately, beating Iowa yesterday, sweeping Iowa for the first time since 1950, I'm pretty sure. And Maryland's a very different team away from home, and I even though Jameer Young's the best guard in the conference, arguably, I think Maryland is going to go out. They're still going to make the NCAA tournament, but I don't think they go too far. Dark horse, and I can't believe I'm saying this about a dark horse, and this might be a little bit of a homer pick. I was between Penn State, Illinois, and Northwestern here. I'm going to go Northwestern. I think whoever comes out of that, because Northwestern as a 2 seed is waiting the winner of Penn State, Illinois, I think whoever comes out of that's going to be it. So all 3 teams have something different. And look, Penn State has the best scorer out of the 3 in Jalen Pickett. They've been really hot as of late. Cameron Winters hit 2-game winners in the past week. Illinois has also been really hot as of late. They've been putting it together. They recently beat Northwestern. Coleman Hawkins, Terrence Shannon, of course, is their best player. Matthew Mayo is a really good threat from outside, and Brad Underwood is coaching a good team. And then obviously, you look at Northwestern, they're probably the best story in the Big Ten this year, obviously predicted to go 13th. and they finished second in the Big Ten, probably the best guard combo in the league in Boo Buie and Chase Audige, and they are one of the best defensive teams, and they got a really big game against Rutgers in the rack last night. So whoever comes out of that will be the dark horse. Most intriguing matchup. So Rutgers and Michigan are the 8 and 9 seeds. Michigan's the 8, Rutgers is the 9, and the winner of that has to play Purdue. And I think that Rutgers and Michigan have so much to play for. I think both of them have to make pretty deep runs in the tournament. Michigan a bit more than Rutgers to make the NCAA tournament. And whoever wins that game is going to play Purdue in the next round. And obviously, Purdue's the best team in the conference right now. So how much does these teams have left in the tank? I think Michigan has to win 2 or 3 games to make the tournament, maybe win it all. I think Rutgers has to win one against Michigan, but Rutgers already beat Purdue this year. So I think that's a really intriguing matchup. So we'll see what happens there. Finals prediction, I'm going to have to go Indiana-Purdue in the trifecta. Indiana beat Purdue twice this year. I think that Indiana is a pretty favorable side. I don't think Northwestern has a tournament experience, sadly. Hopefully they prove me wrong. I think Indiana is one of the hottest teams in the Big Ten. Prediction, Purdue. I think it's very hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. Indiana's already beat Purdue twice this year, and I think that Purdue's the best team in the conference. I think they show it here. And while I don't know how far they go in the NCAA tournament, they win the Big Ten tournament. I think Zach Edey is that guy. I think Matt Painter has the experience. Obviously, Purdue won the Big Ten tournament last year, I'm pretty sure. So I would take the Boilermakers here. Moving on. Big 12 tournament. This one's a really fun one. I really enjoyed analyzing this. So, favorite, Kansas Jayhawks, defending national champions. You know what they bring. Grady Dick, Jalen Wilson, KJ Adams, DeJuan Harris. Bill Self's the best coach in the conference. They won the Big 12 title outright in the regular season. Kansas is a team to beat here. If not Kansas, it'll be Texas. Texas is coming off a huge win against Kansas. They blew them out of their gym on Saturday. Jabari Rice is one of the best transfers in the country, and I think Texas is a team that you really have to look at. They have the capacity to really go far, and not only in the in the Big 12 tournament, but in the NCAA tournament. Early exit. You got to look at Iowa State. Iowa State lost Caleb Grill due to team-related reasons. He was one of their best shooters, and though they beat Baylor the other day, and they ran Baylor out of Baylor's gym, they have a first-round matchup against them too. I think Baylor is going to want revenge. It's very hard to beat a team 2 times in a season in the Big 12, and now you're talking about 2 times in a week. And speaking of Baylor, I think they're the dark horse here. I don't even know if you could call them a dark horse. They're one of the top 15 teams in the country, obviously led by one of the best freshmen in Keontae George. They have 3 players averaging over 14 in a game. Adam Flagler is also up there. He's one of the best guards in the country this year. Baylor even though the 4, they have to be considered the dark horse. And that leads me to my most intriguing matchup for the Big 12. So the first one is a potential Baylor-Kansas semifinal, because those 2 teams really exchanged haymakers the last time they played in Waco, and I think that Kansas is the favorite, but if someone's going to dethrone them, it's going to be Baylor or Texas, but I think Baylor gets the first shot at them, and it'll show here. Then the other intriguing matchup is Kansas State-TCU. I think Kansas State is one of the best stories in college basketball this year. First-year head coach Keontae Johnson is their best player, if not Marcus Noel. They really have it all, and then TCU has really got the wins. Obviously, Eddie Lampkin, their guard, Mike Miles. They are a good team, so whoever wins that game could really make some noise. Kansas State is the 3 seed, TCU is the 6 seed. Finals prediction. Baylor, Kansas State. I think Baylor beats Kansas and I think that Kansas State is able to beat Texas. Kansas State's one of the best stories. I don't know how far they'll go in the tournament, but I think they make the final here. And my prediction to win the Big 12 is Baylor. Keontae George is the best freshman in the conference, if not Grady Dick. And Baylor has the win over Kansas. I think that Baylor will get another. I think that they really got a reality check the other day, and I think that showed. Then, last, the Pac-12 tournament, which I am really looking forward to, because even though the Pac-12 is a very top-heavy conference, there is a lot that could happen. So, favorite, UCLA, now ranked number 2 in the country. They just beat Arizona the other day, who's the second-best team in the conference that I'll get to, along with Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell, who it feels like they've been there forever since their Cinderella run the NCAA tournament. They have Jalen Clark and Amari Bailey. UCLA has the shooting. They play defense. Nick Cronin's the best coach in the conference. If not UCLA, it'll be Arizona. These are the 2 best teams in the conference. Obviously, very top-heavy. Arizona led by Azulis Tobelis and Pele Larson, Amar Ballo. After losing Benedict Mathurin and Dalen Terry and Christian Koloko, I really thought Arizona would take a step back, but that was not the case. Then, early exit, USC. I think USC has a really tough matchup in their first game, which will be the winner of Arizona State, Oregon, and that brings me to my next thing, the dark horse, Arizona State. Arizona State has 5 guys that average in double figures, and they have been really hot as of late. Their best win was the half-court buzzer beater against Arizona and McHale, only team to beat Arizona in McHale this year. I think Arizona State is a really scary team. They're around the bubble right now. They have a lot to play for. Most intriguing matchup. It's the UCLA Arizona finals. If it gets there, it's a really top-heavy conference, and that's my prediction for the finals. And my prediction to win the Big Ten or the Pac-12 tournament is the Arizona Wildcats. I think UCLA is a very different team away from home. This is obviously happening in San Francisco. I think Arizona gets their revenge after losing to UCLA a few days ago. At least Tabellis is one of the best players in the conference, not the best player in the conference. I think that Tommy Lloyd's squad won it last year. I think they win it again here. So, come revisit these predictions. I just wanted to get them out there before a lot of other people. But I have to say, go Cats for the Big 12, or meant for the Big 10 tournament. But there's my conference predictions. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. More content coming on the way soon.